Alright. Hey YouTube, I'm Lucky, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to fight a bubble in Trials of Osiris. I've been seeing a ton of clips going around of people, having to get in these crazy melee fights, getting destroyed by teams of 3 bubbles, putting them down on the overtime. And I will say that Void 3.0 is a problem, and that bubbling the overtime with zone trials is definitely painful. But there are a few things that you can do that'll actually help you win against Titans when they choose to do this, and I'm going to reveal all of these secrets in today's video. All right, so first up, the first thing I'm going to talk about is you might be thinking to yourself, well, the only way to beat a bubble is to bring a bubble of your own, and that can work. Obviously, you can place your own bubble down. You'll have the same buffs as the person who puts it down on the overtime. You can get into these battles where you put down your Titan wall in the bubble. You melee back and forth, you rubber band, you get hit by the walls, you all get brought to one shot. It becomes complete RNG who wins that. And while that can be successful for you, especially if you try to be more hesitant to not punch into their Titan wall that will bring you to one shot, it can also just be chaotic or even just continue to make it a standstill. So in today's video, I'm going to start with the neutral game things that you can do on all the subclasses. If you're loading into a match and you see 3 Titans with bubbles with high intellect, you know what they're trying to do, so you maybe can adjust your loadouts, your weapons, your strategies for how to win that trials match. That would be what I would recommend. So the first exotic, and really the only exotic weapon that I'm going to talk about for this, would be Witherhoard. Witherhoard is actually really nasty for fighting bubbles. One thing you want to make sure to not do is shoot it to the outside of the bubble. It will do no damage to the Titan at all. But if you shoot it inside the bubble, it can kill the Titan, and if you direct hit them with the Witherhoard, it will also kill them. Now, this may cost you your life, because you're going into a bubble, and he has such strong offensive abilities. If you don't know, they have armor, so they have crazy damage resist. They get their grenade back. They have increased melee damage. They have their armor regenerates if you don't actually break their overshield, and they also get increased weapon damage from weapons of light. So they have everything in their advantage. However, if you time it right, if you work together with your teammates to all push that bubble at the same time and just commit on the blitz, if one of you does put on a Witherhoard, I think you stand a pretty good chance at beating this bubble alone. I think that the Witherhoard might be kind of the Achilles heel to fighting these bubbles, so I'll go ahead and demonstrate this here. If Dwayne puts down his bubble, if I were to sacrifice my life, he won't kill me in this situation, but if I were to dip in the bubble, he's going to shotgun melee me. But if I can get a Witherhoard down on the ground, you'll notice that the damage continues to tick over and over and over again and will eventually kill him. Now, someone who's really good at fighting fighting inside of a bubble will continuously strafe in and out of the bubble to refresh their armor. But if you notice, the Witherhoard's size, the size of the sphere of that, is actually massive. And as they strafe out, they could take damage from your teammates punching them. They don't have their armor benefits anymore. They're going to die much more easier. And so I think the Witherhoard might be one of the best options. Along with this, what you can also do is shoot the Witherhoard, and if luck is on your side and you actually hit them directly with it, this will really mess them up, okay? If I push out and I hit them directly with it, this will also tick them down, and what they can do is continuously refresh their armor by dipping in and out of the bubble as well, but in doing so, they expose themselves, make themselves vulnerable, so that way your teammates can kill them. So now that we have exotic weapons out of the way, I don't think there's any other legendaries that are amazingly efficient at shooting the bubble. One thing I will mention, though, is that if you're shooting a primary weapon, it doesn't do as much damage as an energy weapon. You'll notice here I have 2 900 RPM SMGs. The multi-monk does 11 damage, and the funnel web right here will actually do 28 damage. So if you do, for whatever chance, weaken the bubble by using a super, or weaken the bubble with whatever it is that you shoot at it, you can actually finish it off with an energy weapon. It's not going to be extremely effective. We shot at a bubble with all 3 of us shooting funnel webs or shooting a variety of different energy weapons, and it will break the bubble, but they would probably either capture the zone or in the process shoot you because you're focused on shooting the bubble so much. Energy weapons are an option, but it's not going to be like an extremely efficient and effective option for breaking that bubble, in my opinion. But as a last case resort, if that's all you have, if you don't have a Witherhoard on, if you don't have a super, because these Titans, they get their supers back faster than everyone else because it's a tier 5 super. If you don't have any other options, shooting your energy weapons at the bubble as much as possible might be your last resort. But definitely, if he pops the bubble right here again, definitely make sure while you're shooting at them, just aim right at them. So that way, if they do come outside of the bubble, they would get shot by your shots as well. That would be your best chance at trying to fight against this. So all 3 of you shooting your energy weapons, again, it's not going to kill the bubble really fast, but eventually it will weaken this bubble. So I'll give you a small demonstration of that right here. And as soon as he pops this new bubble, we're all going to shoot funnel web endlessly so you can see how effective this is. There we go. Endless funnel web fire. You can see there the bubble starts to look like it's weakening, but this thing can really take a beating. And we'll go through several magazines of this before it finally goes down. We tried with a variety of other weapons too, like I shot it with like a Vex Mythic class, and it was not half bad overall for an energy weapon, but again, it's not the most efficient thing, but that could be your only case, that could be your only chance at beating that bubble right there. All right, so first up for mid-game abilities for fighting against the bubble, we'll go over Titan, Warlock, and Hunter. The strongest mid-game ability. This is not including your super, right? Obviously, if you get a super, it'll fight really effectively against a bubble, and we'll go over which supers are the best for each class. But before we get there, we want to go over the mid-game because it's more than likely that these Titans are going to get their bubbles before you get your super if you're rocking a roaming super, that is, ones that just don't recharge as fast, especially if they're, they're going really dirty and they're rocking like a high intellect build and they're going to be waiting around, making the game slow. They'll get their super way before you get your roaming super. All right, so for a Titan, the best case scenario is to put your wall down in this. This is going to be good territory control. Obviously, you can sprint and slide when you put the animation of the wall down. That might do you some more good to get deeper into the bubble, so that way you can, contest the actual zone if the zone is being captured. You can put on things like the Lorelei Splendor Helmet. That is really, really good. It'll make a sunspot in there that'll absolutely melt them. But again, in the process, you could get shotgun. You could get shotgun meleeed in there. They have increased weapon damage. They have increased melee damage. So it's going to be a bit risky, which is why, again, this comes back to make sure when you're pursuing that bubble and trying to take it down, that you and your teammates commit to the blitz and work together. Because if one of you does get shotgunned in the process, if that Titan wall does go down with that Lorelei Splendor Helmet, that will drop that sunspot and melt them in that bubble, and your teammates can begin to pursue and do more damage to them. There's a second option on Titan as well, though, that we'll cover, which will be Peregrine Greaves. I'm going to have it on this class right here. When you put on Peregrine Greaves, you get increased shoulder charge damage, and it'll also knock him back a little bit, so that'll damage him pretty good. If he comes back into the bubble, though, he will get a refresh on his armor, so make sure to try and not let that happen. That would be in your favor to not let them get back in the bubble and refresh that armor. So Titans have two decently good options for fighting against the bubble with mid-game abilities, but again, now you're back on the same situation like we talked before, like it takes a bubble to beat a bubble. So now we're going to cover what Warlocks can do and what Hunters can do to fight against bubbles. So first up is Warlocks with their melee. We'll be on the Void Warlock, and if you notice, if he walks up and punches him, it'll actually push him out of the bubble, which again is going to be really effective because as soon as he's out of the bubble, he loses that armor. So we'll go ahead and see it one more time. Pushes him out of the bubble, and then the best thing you'd want to do is just keep pushing them and not let them get back in there and refresh that armor. I think that's the strongest ability. We tried throwing a charged grenade in there, throwing grenades in there. It just does such low amount of damage that it's actually not worth it. It won't kill the Titan effectively. It will lower its health a little bit if you're going for the blitz, but again, smart Titans will just strafe in and out, get their armor back. And so I think the best case scenario is to try and push them out of the bubble if you're on Warlock. Next up, we'll talk about Hunters, and of course they have those exotic stasis gauntlets, which make a crazy bubble. If he goes inside the bubble, throws that down, you can actually get into a crazy melee fight. Now keep in mind, you will lose this fight, but if you have multiple teammates going at it, you might stand a better chance with these stasis gauntlets than you would without, simply because you have damage resistance and the Titan has reduced damage output because of these gauntlets. We are talking, of course, about the Renewal Grasp. This is an exotic that a lot of people are using inside PvP already, so this might fit really well and be very conducive to your current playstyle inside Trials, inside PvP. And if they are, it's a decent option. It's your best option as a hunter, but it's certainly not going to be effective at taking Titans off of the overtime. You're going to have to work together with your team. Maybe a combination of Renewal Grasp with a Titan putting down a wall and a Warlock pushing in with their melee. Some combination of those three things should effectively help you fight against bubbles. I'm not going to say it's going to help you win 100% of the time, because obviously it depends on the skill of that Titan. There can actually be, believe it or not, skillful Titans that pop these bubbles and strafe in and out to get their armor back. They put down their own Titan wall to make sure that anyone that enters receives a ton of damage. They time it well, so that way they put it on the overtime at the exact right time. They position themselves well, so on and so forth. There actually can be a little bit of skill to popping a bubble on the overtime, and judging on the Titans that you're fighting against, you'll notice how well they and how effectively they do this. Now, lastly, we're going to go over each class that has the best super for fighting against the bubble for Titan, Hunter, and Warlock for Arc, Solar, Void, and Stasis. So that way you can know when you're loading into the match, you see those three Titans with those three bubbles. You're like, all right, maybe I should swap my subclass. If you're on a Warlock, we'll go over what classes, Hunter, what classes, and a Titan, what classes are the best. So first things first, I'm on my Titan, and of course I can choose to be a bubble, and we'll talk about a little bit of strategies for how to beat them, like I've mentioned before. So if he pops his bubble on the overtime, my best case scenario is going to be to pop my bubble near his, and then I'm going to probably put down a Titan wall here, and then we're going to try and pursue into a melee battle. If I can get him to commit into this melee battle. You see how he's already brought down to one shot, one shield right there. Then it'll take. Oh, okay. Yep, that's fine. That's fine. Yep, that worked great. The point and example from that is that if you do engage in these bubble v bubble battles, you're just getting involved in crazy chaos, and it's like RNG who's going to win that stuff. Even though I did everything right, I put my Titan wall down, he was brought to one shot, there was still a chance that I could potentially lose that battle. That may be your best case scenario, that may be what you choose to do to fight against bubbles, but I will say that there's definitely some better strategies. For example, if I put on the Sentinel shield super right here, go ahead and pop a new bubble, I'll pop my super. You'll notice it'll actually mess him up really well. There we go. Messes him up pretty good. Pushes him both out of the bubble, and it's extremely lethal because it makes him volatile. And now if you're on the Arc subclass, you actually have two really good options on Arc. If you use Top Tree, you have an ability called Terminal Velocity, which is the more height you get, the more damage you do. So if you are using this tree, for example, this will do really good. You'll have Terminal Velocity. You could even have Peregrine Greaves on with this class, or what you can do is go to Missile, which of course will one-hit kill them. So for this demonstration, I'll just use Terminal Velocity so that way you can see how effective this is, but also you can use Missile, of course. A lot of people probably rock Missile. There we go. Kills him inside the bubble, and that's not going to happen on the other Arc Tree, which is the preferred Arc Tree for its mid-game ability, so keep that in mind. Now moving on to Solar Titan, we'll probably be rocking the bottom tree with sunspots due to the Lorelei helmet that a lot of people are using right now. And if we are rocking this, you're definitely going to have to throw a ton of hammers at him. And sunspots will do damage. And it will effectively melt this bubble. But again, keep in mind, you're not going to get this super nearly as fast as that Titan will get his bubble. So not necessarily the most effective battle to fight against. But if you're in the late round 9 and you have a hammer versus that bubble, that's a good fight for you. And then we'll go on to Behemoth. And Behemoth is definitely the place to get inside that bubble and slam. It's actually still really strong. Once I get inside here, I can freeze him and begin to smash him and pretty effectively destroy that bubble. So next up is going to be Arc Warlock, and we're going to go over which subclass is best. Obviously, you can use Chaos Reach, but keep in mind that the Chaos Reach takes the entire time from the start of the super to the end just to break the bubble. And so that'll leave you vulnerable. It will do a little bit of damage afterwards. You could obviously put on the exotic boost to give it some extended time. You'll have to do some armor swapping in that though. What I would recommend instead though, was if you're going to be Arc Warlock already, is to just rock the Landfall class. Because you'll notice right here, when he pops this Landfall, this actually really messes him up. There it is. Yes. That's what's up. That Landfall is super lethal to the bubble. So if you're on Warlock using Arc, do that. Now we'll go to Solar Warlock. So for Solar Warlock, a lot of you are going to be using Dawnblade, right? Dawnblade is the go-to for this subclass. Everyone likes to fly in there with it. However, if you're loading into the match and you notice a bunch of people have Titan bubbles and you're really wanting to fight them more effectively, Dawnblade is a terrible option. Because even after you've thrown like all of your Dawnblades at the bubble, it still doesn't pop it. It's a terrible, terrible way to fight a bubble. And those Titans might actually end up cheesing that match from you if you are rocking Dawnblade. I would recommend to put on a well, and that might sound crazy, but a well is also a tier 5 super, so you're going to get your super at the same time that that Titan gets his bubble, and if they push that overtime and pop their bubble and you put a well on them and get into an endless melee fight, you actually have the advantage because you're regaining health, and you're regaining health as the well Warlock, and the Titan is not regaining an overshield nearly as fast. They will regain their overshield until it's broken, but in this battle, it won't work out in their benefit. So what you'll try to do is use a well Warlock, and you'll literally pop the well inside their bubble, trying to hit them in the head with the sword right on top of them, and then pursue a melee battle. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate what that would look like here. Bubble goes down, Warlock would pop as well, and then melee fight. They duke it out, endlessly punching each other, and you'll notice that the Warlock just continuously regains health and actually wins that battle, takes the overtime back from the Titan. If you and all your teammates are in there as well, they're also going to be healing. So it's going to be honestly kind of a free win for the Warlock. Like that's actually a big win for the team that has just one Warlock that chooses to be a Well of Radiance inside Trials, which I know is kind of a little bit of an off subclass. Not a lot of people are rocking that, but that will definitely get you a win against Titans. The next subclass we'll talk about is, of course, a lot of people are going to be using Void and Void 3.0. So if Dwayne puts down a bubble on the overtime here and Hagen Frank throws a Nova Bomb at him, it doesn't matter what class he uses, this will for sure mess up this bubble instantly. It doesn't. All the classes are really good and really effective at this. That will get you the win against these Titans. All right, so if he pops his bubble and you are by chance using the Stasis Warlock subclass, the best chance is to go in, freeze him, and freeze him repeatedly. You want to do a little bit of damage to him. After 3 or 4 freezes, you can then explode, and then he would die, as you can see there. And obviously, keeping him frozen is going to allow your teammates to go in there and kill that Titan. So that way, you can effectively pop the bubble by your teammates killing him. All right, next up in the last class we're going to be talking about is how to fight the Titan bubble on the overtime with Hunter, with your super. If you're fortunate enough to get your super in time to fight this Titan on the overtime in his bubble, these will be the best classes to use on Hunter. First up, we'll be talking about the Arc subclass and using the combo move. If you don't know what this is, most people should. It's just a light attack followed by another light attack and then a heavy attack quickly afterwards after your second light attack. So light, light, heavy does a really powerful combination that when timed well and use the proper space will one-hit kill the Titan out of the bubble. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate it here. Just like that. That was a perfect combo on Dwayne, and you can see there the Arc Staff wins and the overtime is not captured for Team Titan. Next up, we're going to talk about the Void Hunter subclass versus the Titan in their bubble on the overtime. If you are by chance rocking a Void Hunter and a Titan puts a bubble on the overtime, you're fucked. You're just fucked. There's just not much you can do. All the supers suck against it. You have no mid-game ability to fight them. You better hope and pray you have a Warlock or a Titan in your team to help you, because if you're 3 Void Hunters going against 3 Void Titans, they have you outclassed when it comes to this overtime capture. I'll show you right here what the Hunter will do against Dwayne in this bubble. Go ahead and pop your bubble. If he uses Mobius Quiver even, he gets 9 tether shots. It still doesn't pop the bubble. That's how bad it is. Now afterwards, he could probably fire your energy weapon a bunch if you had all of your teammates. Maybe then you could pop the bubble, but even that requires you to literally put on Orpheus Rig inside PvP, which not a lot of people are going to do. I mean, you could armor swap off your Stompies onto your Orpheus Rig, which maybe some of you will choose to do after this. But it is looking bleak, honestly. If you're on a Hunter fighting against a Titan on that overtime, it's definitely looking bleak for you, because none of the Void classes have anything that's really suitable and really strong for fighting against these Titans. Spectral is terrible because if you go inside the bubble, which you have to on a Spectral, they're going to shotgun melee you. Both Tether trees do not pop the bubble, and they're not very effective at even damaging it. So you're sorry out of luck if you're on a Void Hunter trying to fight a Titan with a bubble on the overtime, in my opinion. Next up, we'll talk about the Solar subclass for Hunters. All of the Solar subclasses are balanced in such a great way that they literally do exactly the amount of damage to break the bubble and nothing more. So it doesn't matter what tree you use. You can use top tree, bottom tree, or whatever it is, Blade Barrage. You can use all the different trees of Golden Gun, and no matter what, it'll actually just pop the bubble the exact same. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate here. Van will put down his bubble, and Bloody will shoot it with the Golden Gun 6 times. And on the 6th shot, it pops. The same thing happens with the 3-shot Golden Gun and Blade Barrage. Exactly, both bursts of the Blade Barrage will just break the bubble and nothing more. Lastly, we'll talk about the Stasis for the Hunter as well versus the Titan bubble. The Stasis Hunter with the gauntlets on, plus their super versus the Titan in the bubble, is a decently good fight, but it's not like a checkmate by any means. So what he's going to do here is Dwayne will pop his bubble, and then Bloody will walk in, throw his nade, and then pop his super. Now, if you're able to pull all of this off without getting killed by the Titan, that's a pretty bad Titan. But you do have the damage resist, and they have reduced damage output, and you do have your super on your side. So that chaos might ensue, and hopefully your teammates will be able to clean up that Titan afterwards. But that's pretty much your best effort on a Hunter to fight against these Titans in these bubbles on these overtimes. That's going to be a wrap for this video, though. Hopefully you found this informative and helpful. Hopefully this helps you fight against Void 3.0. Bubble spamming Titans inside Trials of Osiris whenever the Zone Trials does come back. I think it comes back in like a month from now. When it does, hopefully this video will help you to be ready and help you win those Trials matches. Maybe you make it to the Lighthouse because of this video. If you did find this video entertaining or helpful, make sure to subscribe with notifications on. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.